Well, Goldfields released the results, as Tumi was saying there in the news, and now we're joined by the CEO, Nick Holland, in the studio. Morning to you, Nick. Now, Tumi mentioned a couple of the numbers there. You spent quite a lot of time talking about the South Deep operation, which is really now the South African operation for you, a global gold company. There are quite a lot of comments there about things not happening as you'd expected. One of the phrases you use is, we're going to focus now on getting the basics right. What are these basics that you now need to get right?
What I think we need to do, David, is make sure that our operators underground in the trackless area, which is really the heartbeat of the operation, are properly skilled. They're able to operate the equipment effectively like we do on the international operations. And behind them, we've got skilled artisans that can make the equipment available. So our problem has been a lack of availability of equipment, a lack of operator skills that are required to take the mine to the level we need to get to. And so we're focused really on a two-pronged attack. One is, let's focus on the mining cycle and the maintenance behind that and upgrade those skills. And secondly, let's train people. We've realized if we've got a 70-year mine, it's probably going to be the last gold mine in South Africa. We need to make sure that we train the skills on the mine. So we've put the infrastructure in place, but we're now going to be re-looking at our training programs and making sure that we have a really fit-for-purpose skills program. I think that's the future of gold mining for South Deep.
Nick, give us an example of these skills that are lacking. So are we looking at, we don't have people with the right degrees doing these specific jobs? What's an example there?
So if you look at mechanized mining in South Africa, there aren't a lot of mechanized mining that's being conducted generally. And the kind of mining that we're doing, which is open stoping operations, there's only 6 mines in the country that do it. And in gold, there's no one that is looking at doing mechanized mining on the scale that we're doing. So in gold specifically, there's probably only Target, which is part of Harmony,
but it sounds
much
like
smaller operation.
You underestimated how long it would take to get these skills up, but you're also having, you use the term cash burning. You're spending money while you're doing this, and you talk about a reduction in personnel and equipment. So on the one hand, you're kind of trying to cut costs, presumably by reducing equipment and personnel, but you're also trying to upskill. This is a delicate operation.
It is. So what we're trying to do now is, instead of rushing out and trying to really expand the operation too quickly, let's rather fix the base. So one of the things we did last year is we did curtail the workforce on the operation. We right-sized it, reduced by 15%. We also reduced the number of fleet by 40%. And what we're going to do now is make sure that we can operate and maintain that fleet with all of the right people and get that right first. I think the issue here is, let's get it right as opposed to doing it quickly. If we can get it right, which I think we can this year, then we will build up from there, and I think we can expand. So I think the focus has really changed. You know, rather than chasing long-term targets, let's rather set shorter-term targets which are achievable, build up the confidence, and then move from there, because I don't want the teams focused on long-term targets. I want them focused on what we're doing today.
You sense impatience among investors and shareholders, because some of these things you've said before?
We have. I think we've made good progress, though, over the last year. One of the things that hurt us, though, is we had to shut the mine down for 4 months because of a safety stoppage. That's obviously flowed through into this year. That was very important, though, for us to get the right mentality on the operations. And I think with a long life mine like this, the one thing we mustn't do is try and push targets which might be achievable in the short term, but are not achievable or sustainable in the long term. That's the key.
Nick, what's your situation with load shedding? You're talking about these targets. Will you be able to reach them given the energy situation in South Africa?
Yeah, so fortunately we're in the position where we're not utilizing all of our infrastructure. Certainly we're not utilizing all of the hoisting capacity or the processing capacity. So we are in a position where we've got more flexibility possibly than other players. So we've cut our power by about 10% on the back of discussions with Eskom. We think that's sustainable for us certainly over this year, and we would hope the situation obviously will improve in 2016.
Let's go beyond South Africa, the other operations. Overview there?
Well, I think a stellar year. We're very, very happy with Australia. Australia has achieved 1 million ounces at all-in costs of around about $1,000 per ounce. It's making really good cash flow. I think we're set for another good year. Ghana has really turned around. We had concerns about Damang in Ghana, one of the 2 operations, the smaller of the 2. That is performing exceptionally well, so I'm very confident of the future. Peru is still very good. So we've made good cash over the year. Our operations have generated $235 million of cash, even with South Deep's burn included in that. So a good result for us.
I think we've seen a few themes with mining companies over the past year or so. They're cutting down on the number of capital expenditure, but one of the other things is how much they're able to contribute to the fiscus. In terms of your tax here to South Africa, how much has that been reduced by?
Well, South Deep is in a tax loss situation because we've spent many millions of capital expenditure over the years to actually build a mine. And essentially, I mean, the one point to remind ourselves, we've built the mine at South Deep, but all of the future revenue is still obviously ahead of us. So we're sitting with unredeemed capital expenditure balances for tax purposes, tax losses. So we're not really contributing at this stage to the fiscus, but obviously we will once we get the mine into a cash generative position. So I'm afraid it's our brothers in the industry who are contributing to the coffers at this stage.
Well, thanks to Goldfield CEO Nick Holland.